would you like to just say a few words and get us started?
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Regina Coppins. I'm the chair of the Belgrade Communications Committee, and I want to welcome you to the community conversation hosted by the Town of Belgrade's Communication Committee. We are joined this evening by RSU Superintendent Gartley, who will be talking about and answering your questions about the reopening of schools during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our moderator, Jay Bradshaw, will be taking your questions over chat and passing them on to Carl. So if you have questions, please post them in the chat feature, and we'll also be recording this conversation and posting it on the town's Facebook page. So now I will turn it over to Jay.
Thanks, Gina. We are also simulcasting this on Facebook. So for folks that are joining us using that platform, please feel welcome to post questions in the messages section. So a couple of options. You can either use the chat feature if you're joining us with Zoom, or if you're on Facebook, just post it in the chat session there. It's going to be a team effort here. Anthony, our town manager, is the host and will be helping to make sure that we get your questions answered. The process that we're going to go through tonight is really somewhat more of a conversation. There's been a lot of information that the district has made available through a variety of platforms, online and their website, and in today's Central Maine Sentinel. So what we thought we'd do is just have a bit of a discussion with Carl to go through some of the questions that have come to us. In terms of the process, just to make it easy, we've got 100 people that are with us. Everybody's going to be muted. We're hoping that we can answer your questions if you send them in through text. But depending upon the timing of things, we may be able to open it up. But with this many people, if we opened up the microphones, we wouldn't be able to hear anything. Let's see, help me out. Our board of school board members with us. There's so many people here. I can't tell. If they are, just sort of pop in if they want to make comments as we go through this. That would be fine as well. So Carl, thank you very much for joining us. I know this is an amazingly busy time for you, as it is for all the schools, and we can tell by the fact there are 100 people joining us that this is a topic that is near and dear to our heart. Whether we have kids or grandkids or whatever, we're all going to be impacted by this. I thought it might help to sort of set the stage. Take us back. This pandemic hit suddenly back in March when there wasn't much time to do planning. So can you just sort of guide us through the types of things that hit the district in the spring, some of the quick lessons that you learned, and then walk us through what's happened over the summer and in terms of the plan that has been rolled out. That actually rolled out about a month ago now.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank the town of Belgrade for hosting this. As you mentioned, with 100 people showing up here tonight. We've been trying to take every opportunity we can to talk to folks about the opening of school. What a great opportunity this is tonight, between what's here and what will be on Facebook Live, to continue talking with our community. So in March, yes, this was all over the news. We heard about this coming, across all over the world, and it would be landing in the United States. But I would say probably most school districts in our state, if not the whole country, were indeed caught by surprise at what this did to our state and our economy and our schools. Mid-March, March 13th was our last day of school, Friday the 13th, before we shut down for what we hoped at that time would be a short shutdown until we could find out if this was indeed going to spread in Central Maine, was going to land in our towns. And like I said, we hoped for a short break. So we took 2 weeks. We planned initially 2 weeks. During that 2 weeks, it became evident that we were going to be closed for longer. So we bumped it till the end of April vacation. And then unfortunately, we just could not figure out how to get the schools opened up in a manner that would keep everybody safe and with us trying to adjust on the fly to what was happening in the country. The goals during that time in March were different than what they will be this fall. We had a shutdown, which I have some veteran staff that have been around for a long, well, we'll say a long time. And nobody ever seen anything like this. So when we shut down, our goals primarily shifted to taking care of everybody. And that was, people's mental health. That was making sure we touch base with all families as frequently as we could. That was nutrition needs. That was the academic nature to honestly a little bit lesser degree. We wanted to keep kids involved in their education, which meant it was more fundamentals, grade level reviews, trying to move kids forward, but definitely at a much slower pace. When we hit late April, early May, we did shift towards, okay, we're going to try to start picking up the curriculum and do new learning. But we were hampered by the fact that, at the elementary level, we still didn't have, the level of technology we would need in place around the district in every home to make remote learning possible. We did packets, but that was at best a stopgap. So we continued on as best we could academically throughout the spring, but again, continued on the focus of making sure that our nurses, our social workers, our teachers, our ed techs were getting in touch with families and getting us through the spring. Up to the second week of May, we were still trying. There was still a hope that we would try to open up even for a short period at the end, but it very quickly started to fade. We ended school a little early, a week or so early. During that time, the staff worked incredibly hard to learn new platforms, to plan, to figure out what we would be missing from the past year that we thought would be crucial to make sure we started the next school year doing some review work with. We planned common units for every grade level around the district, because not knowing how we were going to start, whether it was going to be in person, remote, a hybrid, whether we were going to have district-wide classes, all school-based. There were so many variables. So the staff spent those days in June. They definitely earned their keep then working on professional development, trying to prepare, which takes us then to where we are now. Our first day of school is August 31st for students. Staff will be starting a week earlier on August 24th, and they have a week to pick up where we left off. We have a plan of what we're going to do for remote. We're starting with the hybrid. Our hybrid's a little different than some schools. I do know some that are doing it like us, but our hybrid is, as you probably all know, consists of parent choice. So we will have some kids in person and some kids remote, and that's how we will be opening school.
Carl, getting to the plan. Before we get into the weeds of the plan itself, as you and the teachers and your administrative team were pulling together the draft of what this would look like, tell me, were there other parents that were involved in addition to the school board to help guide with, because obviously any model is going to have a huge impact on the families as well.
So over the summer, we tried to be as accessible as possible. I held meetings in, I think, every town. I tried to get out to every elementary school to try to hear from parents. They range from 25 parents or so at each one. So we did have a lot of parent input. We did a survey online, which I know surveys are sometimes, I know how many you get. I was blown away with how many responses we received. It was over 1,300 responses from parents. Keeping in mind we have 2,500 families, 2,600 families in the district. So the feedback I received from parents was impressive. We were required to, but is probably very similar to our strategy. We solve problems in our district anyway. We were required to have a collaborative planning team. So it was made up of teachers, ed techs, nutrition, bus drivers, maintenance, administrators, We had a host of people on our team, school board members. So we had a large group. It was 25, 26 people involved. We had one group meeting, and then we split up into subcommittee meetings to have further conversations on smaller parts of our plan. Like, what would the instructional model look like? What would safety protocols look like? What would transportation look like? What would nutrition look like? What would maintenance look like? Cleaning protocols. So those are some of the ways. And then I have obviously tried my best to try to keep in touch with as many parents through phone calls, emails, and just ongoing communication going forward. So I feel we have in the district right now a pretty good handle on the community wants and needs, which are very important. Safety of the staff and students is obviously first and foremost, but that's the process we followed, at least to try to start developing our plan.
Okay. Well, I think what I'd like to do is sort of walk this through a day in the life of getting back to RSU 18. Now, you already mentioned about the technology resources that were made available at the end of this year, I'm assuming. So those, and I noticed in the, I think it was your letter to the district that folks who needed assistance with iPads, that technology would be provided to them. And I remember seeing last year that some of the internet providers were making special arrangements for families that didn't have internet in their home. Is that continuing as we head into the school year?
Yes, so we will be making iPads available. We have iPads now available for anybody that needs one at home. Middle school and high school kids already take their laptops home, but elementary traditionally hasn't. We haven't been prepared for that. We are now. So we will have the ability to send an iPad home. We did an internet availability, try that one more time. Internet home availability survey earlier this spring. I was actually very surprised that the small number of families who reported that they didn't have good internet access at home. Based on that data, we have obtained enough hotspots for anybody who needs one so that they would have that available in their home to have internet. Obviously, the hotspots do require some sort of connectivity, through cell phone towers. So there could be areas. We have been driving around the district to anybody who said they didn't have internet, and parking in driveways and turning on the hotspot to see if we had a signal. So we do think there's very, very few issues that we will have to problem solve. And at that time, we didn't know who was going remote. We just had the internet availability data. So there could be a handful of people without internet available who also want to be remote, and we're working on strategies there that involve just finding places in the town where we could get connectivity so that people would have a place to go if they don't want to go to the schools.
Okay.
Yes, we should be prepared for technology.
Great. All right. So let's start. It's all going to begin with the buses. And I noticed that, the article, I think it was in today's paper, you mentioned that buses are going to be at 25% capacity, which is interesting in alignment with the classrooms that you anticipate are going to be at 85% capacity. The article in the newspaper talked about hoping that parents would be able to help out with the transportation. That delta is like, what, 60% of the students then are somehow going to need transportation. How do you see that happening? And just from the standpoint of at the schools, I mean, we have several kids that went through the Messalonsky school system, and that's a busy place, dropping off and picking up students. And I think of Belgrade Central is very busy, and the middle school, and how do you traffic just that many people?
Right. I'll start with the paper. They did a pretty good job on the article. That piece of data they misquoted. We have cut the capacity on the buses from any place from 25 to 33%. So we will have much fewer kids on the bus, but there will be more than 25% capacity on each bus. Students will have to wear a mask. We've been, along with survey, in one of the surveys we send out to parents, we've been asking the intent of parents to ride the bus, so we have an idea. I am pleasantly, well, I would not say surprised. The community support has been amazing, but a lot of parents are going to be helping us out with this. So I think we will be able to handle the bus capacity fine. Traffic is an issue. So we are working on strategies with timing to get parents in and out quicker, to try to separate it out a little bit more from the bus. We're enlisting, working with Oakland PD to try to get more officers out and available in the mornings, because Oakland is obviously very, very crowded, and trying to deal with it that way. But right now, it looks like our numbers on the buses are going to be fine. Getting parents in and out of the schools, dropping their kids off. We're asking parents to not come in the building. Typically in the morning when parents drop off, we love this. They come, it's very social. They come in, check with the teacher, et cetera. And it's awesome. It's a great place. It's a very family atmosphere, but we are asking parents, it's more of a drive-through, drop off your kids get out, we will greet them, get them inside, but parents are going to stay in the car and just move right along. So it will be a more of a assembly line type drop off, which is a little unfortunate, but it's the best way, I think, to make this work.
Will you be putting extra bus runs on? I mean, even if you get up to 50%, that's still 50% that, I mean, by the time the bus went by our house, it was full.
Yeah. Yes, we will be putting extra bus runs. A couple of them, some of the buses are going to do, some of our buses do double runs now. They drop off and go back out. We've added some more of those. We also bought 2 more vans, and we've also bought 2 more buses to help out with some of the the areas that are a little more busy. But then you find those things with the parents who say they're dropping off the kids. Right now, our numbers look okay.
And will the buses be cleaned in between those runs?
Buses will be cleaned after the morning run. Buses will be cleaned after the afternoon.
But in between the runs, if you had to do 2 runs along
Yes.
a route that typically had 1.
Yeah, anytime kids get off the bus, they'll have to be cleaned before we have another group of kids get on the bus.
And how's that going to be handled? I mean, it takes time to clean a bus.
Yep. During the day, probably the buses that are the ones that are going to need help are the ones that are doing double runs.
Right.
And that's where we'll have to focus our help on. The majority of our buses do single runs, and then we will have time and staff to clean those during the day and in the evening.
So for the buses that do the double runs, though, what training has been provided in terms of how to appropriately disinfect a bus, and who's going to do it?
The people that are doing that, the maintenance people are training them, and it's a variety of people. Everything from some extra people we've hired to the bus drivers themselves to maintenance staff. So we have a potpourri of people, and our maintenance department is providing that training.
Okay. Now I know in the article, or someplace I read that there's training that's going to be provided to the parents to do screening. Is that? I was trying to think of where did I see that? Because one of my questions was, I know during the summertime, for example, Belgrade has a summer program. There's screening of the children. This takes place every kid before the parent leaves. The parent arrives, kid is screened. If the kid doesn't pass the screening test, they don't enter the building. They're sent back. Now I read that the district is going to be asking the parents to do that.
Correct. The Department of Health and Human Services in mid-July released it's a document, and actually the principals asked me to, I believe they're going to send it out tomorrow. As a matter of fact, we were waiting to see if there was going to be an update because it was released in mid-July. But it's basically a 1-page just checklist of these are the more common symptoms of COVID-19. If your child has any of these symptoms, please keep them home. Then there is a list of less common symptoms. It says if they have a combination of these symptoms, they would stay home. It also talks about a fever greater than 100.4, and it talks about traveling outside of the state to any place. So there's these lists of 5 or 6 questions that parents should be asking each day, and that's what we were advised to do by the state. And I'm using, for the most part, their document. There was a little bit of wording that our team looked to clear up a little bit. We gave it to a group of parents, asked them to read it. Group of teachers asked them to read it. There was some things that everybody came back with a little bit of confusion on a couple of questions. So we tweaked those, and it's ready to go out.
And so I'm assuming that once they get to school, that teachers also have received this similar training to what to look out for kids' behavior and things. Yep. Now, if a student needs to be sent to the nurse's station, is there a mechanism there to isolate that place?
First, so our nurse's office, again, our schools are such, I think our schools are so welcoming and friendly. When I stop by a nurse's office, there's often multiple kids there. It is much of a social work slash, place to go to maybe just take a break sometimes. We use our nurses sometimes for that purpose. Our nurse's office, unfortunately, are going to have to get rid of that, and they will have to start there for children that are sick or suspected of being sick or having some sort of medical issue. So the nurse's office, we're going to have to cut down the flow of traffic. And then we are also required to, and it's, I believe, in place in all, I haven't seen all of them yet, but we're required to have an isolation room. So, similar if you go to your pediatricians, Kennebec Pediatrics, or wherever you go for a pediatrician, when you go there, they have a well child space and a sick child space. We're required to have that in our schools so that when students are sent to the office, or we go get them, which will probably be more of the case, and escort them down to the office. There'll be temperature checks. If the nurse deems that the child may indeed have some of the symptoms, we have an isolation room for the children until we can do a screening of our own.
Mm-hmm. And in the event that one of these, if somebody tests positive, what's the protocol for people who have been exposed to someone in the school, either a student or a teacher?
So if a person tests positive, from a physician, then that person, whether it be a student or teacher, would have to, stay at home. They would have to be quarantined, self-isolate for 10 days with it, and they have to be symptom-free before they can return. So if they're not symptom-free after 10 days, they do have to wait longer. But once 10 days goes by, if they're symptom-free for 24 hours, they're able to return full. That's if they test positive. If a person is in direct, prolonged contact with somebody who tests positive, then that person would have to stay home for 2 weeks, 14 days, and they have to be symptom-free before they return. If we have a case in school where someone tests positive, right now, at least our guidance is the CDC would be involved in helping us determine what would it mean to be in prolonged contact in close proximity. It doesn't, like the examples they give are the extreme. Somebody sitting with a partner in a classroom for an hour would have been considered in close proximity. Walking down the halls past somebody with both students wearing masks would not have. But there is obviously most kids are going to fall in between that someplace, and we would work closely with CDC to make sure we identify the students that would have to, or students and staff that would have to stay home.
In general, would a teacher in a classroom for the morning meet the criteria for close proximity for an extended time?
No, it depends, honestly, on the teacher's style. In our classrooms, we're required to have, and we've been able to successfully do it. We have 6 foot. Students have to be 3 feet apart from each other. The teacher needs a space in the front of the room or in the room, doesn't have to be the front, where they can remain 6 feet apart from students. There's nothing in the guidance that says the teacher can't, walk around the rooms, and many of our teachers will, but we will have a lot of teachers that try to stay in their 6 foot area. If they stay in their 6 foot area, it's not a guarantee that they would have been in close proximity, but again, we would bring the, if somebody tests positive, we are to shut down the classroom. We would bring in an expert, have them take a look at the room and have conversations with the teacher, and the teacher would tell us what was happening in the classroom. And based on all the evidence we can obtain, we would make the decisions on who needs to stay home.
And in that scenario, could you imagine that it might be possible that students would need to transition to at-home learning for a period of time until the all-clear signal?
That could happen if, especially if we had a class, a whole elementary class, which are for the most part self-contained. So if we had a class of students that, 5th grade class at Belgrade Central School, and there was a concern, we could transition them. Yes, that would be a possibility.
So certainly respecting personnel issues. I'm just interested, are there teachers who, for health reasons, have decided they're not comfortable coming back? I've heard in some districts, for example, that as the plans have come out and as it gets closer, a district near to us had a significant number of teachers that just at the last minute said, no, thank you. What's happened at RSU 18?
We did not have many at all. I mean, like every district, and we're a large district, we have people that are nervous. We've tried to build in as many precautions as, that are reasonable. And when I have reached out to most staff, the principals have reached out, a lot of conversations that have happened. And I think pretty much everybody that has concerns has had a chance to voice them and are feeling comfortable. We do have a few but I needed some teachers to teach remotely. I have some students, we have, we have harder data right now at the elementary level, but we're averaging around 15% of our students at the elementary levels right now, where we have good data that are remote. So we ended up identifying 11 teachers that are going to be teaching strictly remote students at the elementary level alone. So I needed staff to be remote. So obviously we would much rather, if we have folks that want to be remote and we have a need for people to be remote, it makes a nice pairing. So yes, it's a concern, and I feel I want the staff to be safe. I'm convinced we can do that to the best of our ability. Of course, nobody in the country can guarantee anything right now, but I'm convinced we have a good system in place. But I also want people to feel comfortable coming to work. So
sure. So in one of the articles that I read, it talked about that students who are learning remotely would be observing the classroom. So, and I'm a little confused because you talked about having separate teachers that be working with the remote students. Help me understand that.
At the middle school and high school, the primary method is going to be where they will just join their class. So if you're in an AP biology class at Messalonsky High School and there's 3 kids that are remote in that class, they would just join it via web camera and a method. If I'm an elementary student that is chosen remote, we have taken our elementary students and at this time we have identified teachers. So I have 2 first grade teachers who will be teaching. I believe I have 25 elementary students who want to have first grade who have been remote. So we will take those 2 teachers and they will teach those students. They will not be joining an existing class. Their teacher will be that teacher. I
see. Okay. So how is discipline going to be handled where you've got some in the classroom and some at home?
I will tell you, well, I have worked in education in pre-K to 12. Discipline is a challenge every year. I mean,
oh, sure.
We have experienced staff. I think we're very fortunate. Our students are incredibly well behaved, but yeah, we are going to have discipline issues. It's going to be, teachers using their regular bag of tricks to keep kids engaged. If classes get boring, students get antsy and start misbehaving. We need to have a lot of parent communication. If a student is remote and they're not, and they're constantly, acting naughty, then it should be a phone conversation. Then it should be, with the parent. Then it should be a teacher-parent conference. So all of the suggestions that I would give to a teacher when they were struggling with discipline, when the students are in session, those same things will apply. Just because they're remote doesn't mean we should, tolerate, poor behavior and ruining the academic client atmosphere for everybody else. I
wasn't suggesting that. I was just recognizing that there's a little bit of a challenge where if we were all in a classroom, you can take the person aside and sort of talk with them quietly out of the earshot of others. If they're all on Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, that's a little bit more of a challenge.
You can. We have purchased the Google Meets and the paid version, which does allow breakout rooms. So it is possible to me to say, all right, everybody, I want you to work on this problem. Jay, you and I are going to join this breakout room right now and, and have a conversation. So that is possible. So that's a strategy that a lot of our teachers use. Instead of stepping out in the hall, you will step into a breakout room and we could pull in an ed tech to monitor the online kids, or assuming at the elementary school, probably there's a parent at home just so they'll know what's going on. We try not to discipline, discipline happens in front of other students at school. When someone is naughty in the classroom, everybody sees, the teacher puts the name on the board, but we don't want to ever embarrass a child in front of the other kids or other parents. So,
Right.
So good job at that.
So I'm sure that it's also been a challenge to identify substitute teachers. How are substitute teachers going to be selected and trained for this new environment?
Well, I've taken snapshot of all 100 names here, and I fully expect at least a few
Yeah.
volunteers.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah. So yes, substitutes are a challenge every year. The economy, there are people looking for jobs, so we have been able to pull in a few extra. One of the strategies we've used that is proving or is starting to prove successful is we are hiring long-term subs. We're asking people, we're going to ask you to commit to James Bean School or Belgrade Central School or Veselonsky High School for this semester or right up through December. And we are hiring those people as long-term subs, which means we're paying quite a bit more. We're paying $150 a day for people who want to be a long-term sub in a building. That gets up into, that it's hard to tell exactly how long, 7-ish hours, say maybe 7.5, but all of that would also include a paid lunch. But, so you're looking at $25 an hour. So we have been able to pull in some long-term subs at every building so that we have at least 2, our goal was at least 3 at every building. My goal is still to get to that, where we have 3 people there every single day to help out with substitute issues. And then we have other people who don't want to commit that much that will be our normal sub pool if we need them. And we probably will from time to time.
And is there training that's being given to the substitute teachers so that they're able to?
Yeah, next Thursday, we are having a training for our subs that have signed up. They'll get paid for the day. It's probably will be just a morning training. It's the 27th, I believe. They're all getting called tomorrow. Maybe some did today, but to make sure they're all set for that. And we're going to go over, all the mandatory trainings that we always want subs to take. Make sure they understand confidentiality, what to do in an emergency, and we're also going to go over our plan of, how to handle this, the atmosphere that we're forced to deal with this year. So that's next Thursday.
Now, will the ed techs that you also have in many of the classrooms be working just with the classroom students, or will they also be working with the remote students?
At the middle school and high school, it's a little bit of both. Primarily, the ed techs will be working in the classroom because the kids are joining the classes. If that student that's joining the class needs help, it could be the teacher, could be the ed tech helping them out, depending on what the nature of the questions are. At the elementary levels, right now we've tried to keep the numbers small so that a teacher could handle the number of students. It's in the 11, 12, 13 range. If it grows a little, we're prepared to shift some ed techs to help out so that we make sure we have the ability to handle those students.
Now, you mentioned you're going to be using Google Meet. I'm not that familiar with it, but I know there were some very highly publicized issues of Zoom bombing in the spring semester. How is security addressed so that hopefully to avoid that type of situation?
One of the things we did last spring, or I say our teachers did last spring, is we put on sessions on Google Meets and Zoom, and we had conversations about strategies such as making sure you have an invite room, that you have to invite people into the session, just that how to use the cameras and protocols for how to run a Zoom session or a Google Meet session. They're very, very similar. Just throwing it open to the world, what a lot of people did because they were just trying to make it as accessible as possible because so many people were learning these technology tools, opened it up to definitely things we don't want to happen in our schools.
So along the other questions that we've had have dealt with sports and the arts, music and theater and those type of things.
I mean, we have to take some guidance from the MPA, Maine Principal Association, when it comes to sports. We don't, it's pretty much going to be a team, decision. Yeah, so, as the Maine Principal Association right now has delayed the start of athletics to September 8th for tryouts. I believe it's the 17th is what they said, not, give or take, for the first, when you could first start playing games. That is not a final decision. That it was supposed to be let's say the third Monday in August. So we were supposed to have already started by now. So they backed it up to September 8th, I think smartly, to just give more time to see if this is even going to be possible. I still have pretty strong doubts whether athletics will be able to take place or not. We'll wait and see. That's not a decision, and I will wait and see what they decide. But I definitely have my doubts. If they do, there's going to be an awful lot of precautions in place. But that being said, extracurricular activities are very important to kids and the community. Music, our music program, faces some challenges because the guidance from the state is to have students play any instrument where the wind, a woodwind, where you're blowing air through, whether it be actually brass or woodwind. If air is blown through, then kids playing the instruments have to be 14 feet apart, which creates a huge challenge. So, a lot of it will have to be outside or in huge spaces, but that is difficult. 14 feet is a lot of space, and that's 14-foot circumference around every student. If there's air being blown through an instrument, we have reached out to the state. Last Thursday, I reached out to the state about this to see. We found some devices that go over the end of the instruments, almost like a mute, but it's like a tight-fitting shower cap, if you will. Looks like to the end of any instrument. It obviously would change the sound a little bit, but it would allow them to, excuse me, maybe be closer. The state was aware of those, and they we send all kinds of information. They said that future guidance on that and the ability to use those would be coming. We haven't heard back yet, but right now that's our request. But I believe the high school is putting into place right now a plan, as are both middle schools, to try to have band. I very much want to have band and chorus. Unfortunately, it would mean using very large spaces or being outdoors.
Is the chorus guidance also 14 feet? If they're going to be singing?
Chorus is 14 feet as well. So that makes, obviously, hearing, for the conductors, hearing, what they hear, they don't just get these kids together and play. They really, what those are band and chorus teachers do is amazing with the, what they can hear and how the adjustments they can make, and that will present a challenge to them. But that is the current guidance. But yes, I desperately want to have our music program. I have been meeting with the principals. They are trying to come up with ways to have some concerts, and because I think those things are important.
A couple of questions that came in, Carl. What is the district and specifically Belgrade Central's plan for social emotional learning? Will this be a daily focus? Students will need social emotional skills, and this time should be carved out on a regular basis, since they won't have the opportunity to learn these skills through natural play and group learning opportunities.
Students that choose remote, that's a big concern. Any isolation. We have made sure to schedule either a social worker or a guidance counselor meeting with all the remote students on a weekly basis. Whether they will be big group meetings or small individual meetings, a little bit, that's still yet being played out. But every student that's remote K-5 will have an opportunity to meet with a counselor once a week. We're also, excuse me, as I've seen the planning from the elementary principals, social emotional is one of they are well aware that the teachers, these 11 teachers that are teaching remote, or students that are remote, are well aware that this is a need of the students. And it's going to be chances for the kids to have dialogue, to have conversation, to talk about, their writing might be more reflective, more diary type things. So that we're going to have to provide those opportunities for kids just to reach out, because you're right, playtime will not be go out with your friends at recess. So that's important.
With all the new rules and expectations, will it be an expectation that teachers set up classroom management systems that focus on positive practices, such as the PBIS model? Will there be a multi-tiered system of support set up so students who are struggling with the new expectations can get extra support versus just a punishment approach?
Well, we have not officially adopted the PBIS system. I see a lot of it in our. I would say I see positive discipline practices in all of our schools. Use a variety of restorative justice practices as well. I know at the middle school levels, a lot of the conversations around discipline are all focused on, all right, how can you make this better? Very rarely that I see the discipline go directly to a punishment in our schools. There are punishments. There are times when a student needs a detention, or unfortunately an in-house suspension, or even more rare, an out-of-house suspension. But even on a normal basis, I would say that our district is above average and then some on the opportunities we give children for positive reinforcement versus punishment.
How will the proficiency of students be assessed and adjusted where deficiencies are identified?
Yep. Our goal for grading is to keep it as normal as possible. Which means, I'll start at the high school down. At the high school, that means, so we have standards that are attached to each course, and students get a letter grade, based on their quality of work on assignments and quizzes and tests, and they get basically two sets of feedback, one on the individual standards, one on the course. That is still going to happen. At the middle school level, same thing. That's how we grade. If you're starting a topic, there are standards attached, and you get feedback on that standard. At the elementary level, there are no letter grades or numerical grades. It is strictly on standards. In one of the things we did last spring was, so I know, and I don't have the topics in front of me, but I know all second grade teachers in the district are going to start by studying, and how we determine what that topic is the first grade teachers met and said, when students transition to the second grade, this is a topic that did not get covered that is crucial to move on. So that is what all second grade teachers will start with. Then we have the next two topics after that, where the second grade teachers have already pre-planned their units. So we basically have probably a good 2.5 months planned out topics. Now, that doesn't mean every teacher will, do the details of their lesson differently, but we know what we're going to be doing as a district, so that we have some consistency, which will help with has helped a tremendous amount with professional development, helping them work together as teams, whether they be district-wide teams. And as I said, at the elementary level, our elementary teachers, if you're teaching remote students, you may have students from 4 different schools. Probably not, probably 2 or 3. Our goal is 2, it might be 3, but you're going to have students from across the district and you're remote. So we needed that consistency across the different districts. So the standards that are attached to these courses the feedback will be the same as it always has been. At least that's the goal. We know we're going to have to be flexible because it is going to be a challenge with some kids going remote, some kids in person, and we may shift to all in person. We may shift to fully remote. I don't know what it's going to bring as we go through this year.
Well, before we get to that, I noticed that, some of the school districts have said they're going to go with split weeks, so that, some students would go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday would be like a cleaning day, Thursday, Friday, and then they're going to alternate, week to week or some similar model. How are you going to clean the classrooms? The basic kids are going to be in there 5 days a week.
Yep. So in those schools, during the day, cleaning wise, I didn't think that, honestly, and every school district is different. Feedback from parents is every district, and I luckily don't have to worry about helping solve every district's problems. But we are going to have students in our schools every day. They will have students in their schools every day. It's different schools. I'm not sure about the one intense cleaning day. I wanted to do more of 5 days a week cleaning. So what we're doing is we have custodians during the day, custodians in the evening. What we have done is we have shifted, and we have multiple custodians in the evening to clean the buildings. We have shifted one of the evening custodians in each building to be, the normal shifts are 6 to 2 and 2 to 10. So we now have a 6 to 2 shift, we have a 10 to 6 shift, and a 2 to 10 shift. So we have a custodian now that comes in midday to help with extra cleaning around the lunch times, the recess times, the high touch area times to do bathrooms, etc., so that we can hopefully keep the buildings cleaner during the day. And then that meant we stole a little bit from the evening. So I've offered up to students at the high school, and we've filled all the positions, but we got a great response. And I don't know how many off the top of my head. I want to say around 18 or 19 students that we've hired from Messalonskee High School. We always hire high school students for summer jobs. I love giving our students summer jobs, mowing lawns and stuff like that. So we've hired, I believe, 4 at the high school, 4 at Messalonskee Middle School, and 2 or 3 at every elementary school to clean every evening. So they won't be doing bathrooms. They will be doing high touch areas, desks, doorknobs, water fountains, and they will be doing extra cleaning. So our plan is to do extra cleaning every single day so that we can keep everybody safe.
And who will monitor the performance of the students to make sure they are doing the cleaning the way it's good?
We will have custodians in those buildings as well. They won't be in there alone. They'll be working as a team with our evening custodians.
Okay. So let's say, if things don't go well, what's the plan for in-person students if things change and in-person instruction is just not able to happen?
Yep. So if we have to go fully remote, our goal will be to keep, so at the elementary level, this time I'll start with the younger children, the goal would be to basically shift towards what our 11 teachers are already doing. They already have a schedule. If I'm teaching 4th grade in Oakland, then I would now have a 4th grade class at Oakland. We have our topics all built out. We have a schedule for the day. The day would go on as scheduled. We would be sending the technology home, and we would have remote learning happening. Middle school and high school, same thing. Everything is we're going to keep the day as close as we can to normal and just shift to online learning.
Now, part of the plan I understand is you're going to utilize outdoor spaces to the extent possible, but eventually it's going to get colder here. How will you be able to keep all of the kids in the school at the same time, given the space considerations once you lose the outside space?
The outside, well, the 2 things I'll say to that. One is there's not for a second do I think that we have a plan at this point that is going to take us through the entire year, and we're not going to have, I apologize, I'll turn that off. So I am well aware that we're going to have to make adjustments. When winter hits, we are starting to, we're more than starting. We're developing, the plans we have right now take us up through the end of fall. When winter hits, we will have to make some changes. I fully expect probably some changes will happen in the end of first trimester. I think we'll have either a lot of students come back to school because things are moving in a very good direction, or we will be moving towards more remote. Either way, it will affect what's going to happen when we get cold weather. I think probably we will go one direction or the other in the state. So, but just like for the last 2 months, we've been really focusing on making sure we had our plans ready to open school in the fall. We are now focusing on what do we do to make adjustments once the weather turns colder. Outside right now, what we have is we have a tent, 20 by 40 tent set up in every school outside. It gives us extra space for outdoor eating. It gives us an outdoor classroom, not during lunch. And I would say we could use that up into, first week or 2 of November pretty comfortably. Obviously, if it's one of the really bad winters, then early, then no, but we have that space. And then all of our schools have spaces outside, whether it be gazebos or the school forest, or we have spaces we're going to try to utilize as much as possible this fall to give kids breaks and to get them outside for learning when we can.
Regarding the students and the mask requirement, has the student handbook been updated to reflect the consequences for students who are taking their masks off? And what is the disciplinary policy?
No, I am set. Well, I was waiting for Friday. We got the state has been releasing every Friday some updated guidance at this point, and they did this last Friday as well. I have a student handbook, return to school handbook, that will be going out, and I think I put it in the last parent update that you said you would get it this week. I'm sending that out. I didn't get into the discipline of masks at this point. You know, the rules are simple. This isn't a school rule. This is a state mandate. We have to follow it. You know, but so the conversations with this, if a student refuses to wear a mask, it will quickly elevate to the parent involvement level. I would call you, Jay, and say, yeah, your son or daughter is refusing to wear a mask at school, and I need your help. You know, they need to wear one in school. And it would quickly turn to, if they want to be here, they have to do it. It's not what I like to do, but that is a mandate. The intent on keeping everybody safe. So it's something we absolutely have to do.
I've had several questions about transportation and dropping off. And dropping off students, there's not going to be a temperature. There's not going to be a temperature check done when the students drop off. It's going to be drop and go. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Will the drop-off time be available earlier than 7:30?
The principals sent out for each building when the drop-off time was at each building, and I don't have that list in front of me. I think if there are parents on here, thumbs up or anything, do people get the times for the drop-offs? I'm seeing some head nods and some thumbs. So I believe people have received times when they could drop off at that building, and we've tried to coordinate when the police are available to help us with traffic, when the buses, and when the parent can drop off. But I hesitate to give a time because it's not exactly the same at every place.
So let's see, we've got a question about what is the procedure if a student tests positive at China Middle School and the student rides the bus? Will this affect the primary school students? And what about any Erskine students who ride the same bus?
So if a student tests positive, like I said, if a student tests positive and they ride the bus, again, that's going to be a call to CDC. If I had to hazard a guess based on conversations that I've had, I would say the student that was probably, if there was a student sitting with him or her or right across from him or her, probably I would consider, the last time I read on the CDC site, it said in close proximity, within 6 feet, for 15 minutes or more. So I would assume probably the students sitting in that 2 or 3 seat radius probably would meet that criteria. Now, obviously, that is not an official answer as far, because we would, those guidelines may change, but that's last time I read on CDC's site, that's what it said. So it could affect students from another school building.
During the recess breaks, will children be able to use the playground equipment, and how will it be sanitized between uses?
Right now, the guidance we have on playgrounds is similar to what we have the Maine Principals Association released on like athletic equipment. Like we are allowed to have students right now. We can't have them scrimmaging or playing games. But we are allowed students to share a basketball, shoot, rebound, throw it out. So we are allowed to have students share. They have to hand sanitize before, and equipment will need to be cleaned on a regular basis. It doesn't mean when one child goes across the monkey bars, then you clean it before the next child goes across the monkey bars. At least that's what the current guidance is. I think that's an area I want to make sure we have updated guidance right before school starts, because I've seen that one change multiple times. But right now, we will have probably like between recesses, which you can only have 50 kids out there at a time, so we're going to have multiple. We're going to have to do cleaning between them. That's the plan.
Back inside of the classroom, is there going to be plexiglass between the students' desks or some sort of dividers to add extra protection?
We asked about that. We sent in that question. There was a lot of teachers requested the plexiglass instead of masks. but the state said no, even if you put up plexiglass, the kids would still have to wear the mask. So then the interest dropped off real fast. There doesn't seem to be really much of a, it wasn't a need. We have masks or mask and a shield if needed. But at one point there was a conversation about, I thought some really neat little, almost like a cubicle, a 3-walled plexiglass that you could drop on a desk for a student. It went up 3 feet. So the student would be sitting there, could work. And at one point there was a conversation about that meeting the requirements of a face covering. But the guidance from the CDC and or the state was that no, it wouldn't. So we stopped pursuing that avenue.
Okay. How will the standardized tests be administered to the students who are learning remotely?
Yep. We just last week we worked with NAWIA, the company, which is one. It's not the state standardized test. It's the one we opt to. We use it for grades 3 through 8. Sometimes freshmen and sophomores. At times in the past we've had take it as well. So we still have available. It's an online assessment. It takes about, I would say, average of 45 minutes or so per student for math, 45 minutes or so per student for reading. So we have the ability to do that in our schools, and we've worked with NAWIA to make that available at home to students that are remote. The official standardized test, which is given in March, we have not received what the state is going to do. They put out a survey to superintendents and curriculum coordinators a few weeks ago asking for guidance on if we wanted a waiver so that we didn't have to give it this year. But I don't know where that's going to end up. But NAWIA, we are not starting as early. We won't start that till late October. We want the kids back. We want to get them acclimated. We want to start learning. And NAWIA test won't happen till late October, early November.
Okay. And what about students who have IEPs in place regarding services such as speech, OT, et cetera?
We're offering those services both in person and remote. We have identified people who will offer those services for remote. Homeschooling, we don't have to offer special ed services. Sometimes we do if we can, but I don't think we'll have the ability to do it for homeschool students, but we will have the ability, we are required to, and we will have the ability to do it for remote and in-person students.
Great. We have just, I'm trying to scan the questions, as you can imagine, Carl.
Absolutely fine. I'm sure there are a lot, and people, if you have more that you want answered, send them to me and I will answer.
Yeah, I'm thinking, well, we originally scheduled this to go for an hour. If we can go just a little bit longer, maybe we can tag some of these. And then I think perhaps we're simply not going to be able to get to every question, but Anthony can help me out here. If we have a way to capture all of the questions that are in the chat and we can push them to Carl, they might be something that can be incorporated in some of their outreach material.
Yes, sir. Really?
Okay. I think that was saying yes, we can. Okay, good. We got the big thumbs up. Let's see. So here's a question. Let's see. The hybrid model is more about achieving distancing than about cleaning. As I understand it, the plan to offer the parents the option of online or 5 days in person was predicated on an early estimate of 50% choosing online only, 50% choosing in person. Now that 85% have chosen to be in person, how can you hope to achieve the state mandates for distancing in the classrooms? Most other schools in the area have found that a true hybrid model is the only way to reduce in-building population enough to maintain the distancing as mandated by the state.
I don't know where the 50% number came from. I never thought we'd even come close to 50%. It's actually 15%, is actually very close to what we predicted would probably, but I never publicized any guess because I really didn't know. We have surveyed parents and it's looking like it'll be 15%. My biggest concern there is, whether it won't be uniform, 15% of every classroom around the district. So there's going to have to be some flexibility there. What we've been doing for the last week is going around to every classroom and taking the class list and saying, all right, we now have an idea of who the actual people are who are going to be doing remote learning. So we know how many students are in every classroom, and we're setting up desks to meet the 3-foot minimum criteria for spacing between students and 6 feet away for the teacher, and setting that up. It's not an option. We can't say, well, we can do it for most of them. we have to be able to do it for all of them. And right now, I believe we can. There is one building that actually I'm meeting tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, I believe, because they are running into a few roadblocks. They have a few classes that they're struggling with that. So we're problem solving solutions. But for the most part, like I said, these are not, the state didn't throw out suggestions and say, hey, try to do 3 feet distance with masks or 6 feet for the teacher. You know, if you think you can do it, but if you don't worry about it. This is a requirement. And so our classrooms will be set up with 3 feet distance. The 2 days hybrid model, you know, that was discussed with our collaborative planning team. It was discussed with the administrative team. It was discussed with the school board early on. It didn't gain a lot of traction. Of course, a lot of these meetings were happening before other districts announced they were doing. Whoever wrote this question is correct. At least half the districts are going with it, you know, 2 days each. I don't, you know, hearing responses from parents. I know, well, I bet it's not popular with the 2 days, I bet won't be popular with parents anywhere. But safety is the only thing that will make this decision. If I don't think we can keep the kids separated, scratch at it. If I don't know we can keep the kids separated, the mandated amounts, we will not do that many kids in person. But right now, the principals are charged with, and most of them have reported out, they're setting up the classrooms to meet the criteria.
Let's talk about the nutrition plan. I know that's a big deal, and talk to us about how that's going to be handled. I know that you know, for the plan for lunch for students who are learning at home who may qualify for free or reduced meals, breakfast. I know that was a challenge in the spring. How's that going to be handled in the fall?
Yeah, so obviously students are in person. That, you know, that's easy. It comes with challenges because, you know, you have to keep the kids spread out at lunchtime, so you can't have more than 50 kids in the cafeteria, so we have to use alternatives. So there are a lot of challenges at lunchtime, but I think we have a pretty decent plan. The students are remote. Right now there is no plan to deliver door-to-door meals, but we will make meals just like we do during the summer. Like right now, we will make meals available for, you know, bag pickup for anybody who's remote. As of the last time I asked, there is no, like this last spring, we were able to do free meals for everybody. Right now, the meals are, you know, if you're a full pay person, you have to pay full. If you're reduced, if you're free, etc. Even if they're pickup, people can pick up multiple days worth of meals, but we will make meals available, breakfast and lunch, for anybody who's choosing remotely, but they will have to come pick them up. If we can work strategies, we will, but right now that's the plan.
Excellent. Well, Carl, I really appreciate your time tonight, and I just wanted to give you the opportunity to say kind of some closing thoughts. In particular, again, remind us how the district will be keeping the community and parents updated. This is, we all know this is going to change one way or the other in ways that we can't even imagine. So. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, well, this summer it has been primarily, you know, me sending out, you know, blasts to parents, and like I said, based on the response that we received on surveys, I'm quite confident that everybody is getting messages, because like I said, when I send out a survey, I'm lucky if I get 20 responses. To get 1,300 is, you know, unheard of. So I do think people are seeing them. As we start school, principals typically have a weekly. I will continue mine. Principals will continue theirs, and I will continue to try to answer any questions via email, phone call. I will make myself available as much as possible. Making sure the parents know what's going on, pretty important. We need. This is not something we can do alone. We need your support. So I will make sure we keep that communication lines open.
Thank you. And I would say for those who are listening, I apologize that we couldn't possibly get to everybody's questions, but I promise that all of the questions that are asked will be forwarded to the superintendent's office for compilation and responses. And I would say, if you think of questions as a result of the conversation tonight, please feel welcome to send them directly to Superintendent Gartley or to the town office, Belgrade town office. I know there are many people online who are from outside of Belgrade, and we're delighted to have played a part in making this evening possible. I guess I'll toss it to Anthony or Gina to see if there's any closing comments that either of you would like to make.
Well, I too would just like to, I'm Anthony Wilson, I'm the Belgrade Town Manager, and I'd like to thank Superintendent Gartley as well. He's been a great partner for the town of Belgrade. And I think the fact that he's devoting part of his evening shows that he's really interested in addressing your concerns in a productive way. And just as, I was just commenting to my wife, boy, I'm glad I'm not the RSU 18 superintendent. And so if y'all would, I'm sorry, I use the word y'all, I'm from Texas, but if y'all would, maybe just understand that there's no perfect plan. There's nothing that the superintendent and his staff can do to address every contingency that they're going to face in this school year. And so I think it's going to be really important that people just show a little patience and show a little kindness and understand that those public servants are really doing the very best that they can for your families and for your children.
Very well stated. I would venture a guess that there are probably some times when the superintendent's glad he's not the Belgrade town manager too. So see how that all works out. Gina, you had the opportunity to open this. Any comments that you would like to make as we wrap it up? She may need help being on. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just want to thank you, Jay, and Carl, and all the participants. This is a great turnout, and I just wish everyone the best this year, and hope everyone stays safe. Thanks so much for your participation.
Thank you, Gina. And I will again take the opportunity to just echo what Anthony said. This is a very stressful time for all of us. This is not the summer any of us had planned. But taking a deep breath and being nice to each other goes a long way. So thank you for those who are doing that. And please do keep in touch with the town and with the district. Your input, as Carl has mentioned many times tonight, is essential to the ongoing success of a safe school year. So with that, thank you all for joining us. Carl, we kept about 100 people through most of the evening. I don't know about Facebook, but it was an excellent turnout. And thank you so much for your time this evening.
Absolutely my pleasure. And I can't thank you guys all enough for organizing this. And we've got some questions answered. And again, as they've said, send me more questions. I am happy to talk anytime.
Great. Thanks all. Good night.
Great.
Be safe.
Good night. Thanks, Jay.